We're following a champion's journey. In the last game, Gukesh suffered a heart-wrenching defeat. This is game 8. He had a rest day in between here, and he's got the black pieces, and we see through the opening, he just wants to get a bit of a game. He's playing A6, he's playing H6, he's wanting to prevent, white from jumping into his position. He wants to be solid. Maybe he's preparing B4. Obviously, this A4 move prevents B4. And after this here, you might think, well, why doesn't Vidit just grab this pawn? Well, if you grab back here, there's no dark squared bishops on the board, and black's going to have this square, this square. He's going to control the dark squares in the position. So, Vidit, he doesn't like that. We have a couple more moves here. White's gaining a little bit more space. Space is good in chess. The more space you have, the more restricted your opponent is. And here, Gukesh decides, well, let's give up those dark squared bishops anyway. I'll damage white's pawn structure, and let's keep playing, offering another trade of bishops. And here, white decides to push to b5. Now, space is good, but when you go up to the 5th rank, so 5th rank is the 5th row from the back. So this is the 1st rank, 2nd rank, 3rd rank, 4th rank, 5th rank. Now your pawns start to get a little bit squirrely. They're potentially loose. They could potentially become weaknesses in the future. Obviously, nothing crazy. The computer here says, black is equalized here, but it's pretty much even. Black decides to move back, and now if white decides, okay, I'm going to grab this pawn, then black's going to grab this pawn here, and we're going to have this open A4 pawn, nothing defending it. The rook's going to be lining up against it. That's not going to be good for white. White doesn't want to do that. So he grabs this bishop instead. Black doesn't want to damage his pawn structures. He moves his rook forward, and after a couple more moves here, just simple development, white is trying to break open that center. If we're going to grab this pawn and recapture here, that's going to undamage my pawn structure. My pawns won't be doubled anymore. That would be good. And white here slides the queen over, and he's eyeing this b5 pawn, because captures. Imagine that knight's not there. The queen's going to be capturing that. Black's going to go up a pawn. That's going to be great for him. And so now white moves over, and black decides, you know what? Now that your rook's no longer on the A file, I'm going to grab that pawn. And after you recapture right here, I have the whole file. Not only that, I'm going to move up to A5, and I'm going to be threatening your B5 pawn, putting some pressure on it. White pushes his pawns even further forward. Now, pawns, they can never move back. So each pawn move forward is a potential weaknesses for brand new players. You're going to want to try to avoid moving your pawns basically as much as possible. Grab the center, move your central pawns, maybe create a escape square for your king. Like, for instance, this square, the king can escape. There's no back rank issues. But other than that, you're moving lots and lots of pawns. Those pawns can't move back. They're potential weaknesses. Gukesh here, he jumps into position. Now white can no longer re-establish this A file because he's got 2 pieces lining up on it. And we have the rook. He's jumping back. The rook's saying, you know what? White here, he's got, this open F file. Potentially he's going to attack this F7 square. And I've got this open A file. I'm going to attack on the queen side. Black's going to attack on the queen side over here. White's going to attack on the king side. And you know what, white, I'm not sure if you really have anything over there. Let's see what you're able to do. And white with this king move saying, you know what, let me get out of the way of your potential attack. I know this rook's eventually landing on A1. This is going to be a little bit of a safer square for me. And what does black do? Black decides to play this B6 move. He's saying, I already have the A file. I don't want any sort of, maybe this pawn push coming in here, opening up the position over on the queen side. If this queen side opens up, maybe this queen's going to land here on C7, going to create for me all sorts of problems. So let me just lock down the position. After this position's locked down, I already have my attacking line on the A file. Let me get in there, make a couple of quick dance moves, and then my queen's going to land here, get a little bit closer in here. Now I'm attacking this pawn too. This knight is attacking this pawn. This queen's attacking this pawn. This knight's a little bit tied down, and white says, okay, cool. Well, let me get a little bit closer into the position. If I could land my knight right here, I'll be attacking some squares. That one's going to come with check if I ever land on it. And black says, yeah, go ahead, knock yourself out. I'm just going to sidestep with my king. There's going to be no, checks here with potentially lining up on this knight. None of that kind of funny stuff here. Let me just take care of all your threats, and then I'm going to go after my game. Like I said, I'm going after the queen side. Okay, you're going after the king side. You're lining up against f7. How's that going to work for you? My knight is defending right here. This pawn's defending right here. Okay, yeah, whatever. Let me get in a little bit closer. And with this queen sidestepping over, we mentioned that this knight's already tied down right here. Can't really move too much. This is going to fall. So, you might think, let's just move over here, get into the attack. No. That's not quite going to work. What other moves does white have here? Well, there's a lot of pressure coming down the queen side. You might say, okay, well, why don't you just let me bail out of this position? But it's not quite that easy. You just, capture over here. You could throw in this capture here with that intermezzo right there. That's a not quite checkmate threat, but almost checkmate threat. But even if you don't, even if you just grab right here, we have this trade. And at the end of it, at the very least, black's going up a pawn right here, and white's pawns are still really far extended. White still can't move these pawns forward. The A file is still in black's control. So in this position right here, white feels the need to capture that, make this trade, and I need to make something happen here. So let me just try to plow my way through this anyway. I know that this position's locked down, but I'm realizing I'm not getting anything over on the king side here. So if I don't open up this, have some sort of attack coming, I'm really not going to have anything going on for me. So he jumps his knight forward, and he's thinking, okay, cool. I'm gonna be able to break in this way. How am I going to be able to do it? But he doesn't realize how weak his king is in this place. And so Gukesh here, Gukesh is a freaking champion. He smells blood in the air. I'll give you just a couple seconds to see if you can see this actual checkmating threat. It's unstoppable in this case. And he just slides over to e1. And this king here is so weak. There's just nothing really to be done without, giving up a ton of material. You could give up your rook in this case. But unfortunately, it's just not quite enough. The queen jumps over, the king slides, the knight jumps over, and this knight move here to defend this knight and put all sorts of threats on the board. What's going to be the final threat? Well, the queen's going to jump in here. This is going to be checkmate, and there's just no real way to defend it. We're trying desperately to create something, some sort of escape, but it's not enough. The knight jumps back. The rook comes in. The rook's going to grab this, give it up, and give checkmate. Instead of that, we go for a little bit of a different plan. And in this position right here, black can play the savage move. Yes, he could give up his own queen, because in this position, you grab right there. And do you see the checkmate? It's g5 checkmate with a pawn. How cool is that? I mean, when do you ever see a checkmate just like that? But, Vidit, he plays it a little bit different. He grabs that knight instead. He's not worried about it. And we have this check, this capture, and checkmate here on h3. And there you have it. Gukesh bouncing right back in the second half of this tournament, equalizing after that heartbreaking loss. If you haven't already checked it out, link right here, or there'll be the little box or whatever. Thanks for checking it out, guys. I'll see you around here soon.